Stan Gibilisco here, proprietor and operator of amateur radio station W1GV, Whiskey 1, Good Vibrations. I was first licensed as WN0OKV, Ocean Kilo Victor, in March of 1966. I lived in Rochester, Minnesota. I was, I believe, only 12 years old, and my parents were kind enough to let me use the fallout shelter. Back in those days, we were very, very aware of the threat from Cuba of nuclear attack. So many houses built fallout shelters, and by 1966, the threat had pretty much passed, but it made a great storm shelter nevertheless. And it made a great ham radio shack. My rig was a Hallicrafter's SX-130 receiver, Sierra X-Ray 130, and a Viking Adventurer, Johnson Viking Adventurer transmitter with 50 watts plate power input. I was licensed as a novice, hence the WN, Whiskey November prefix. WN0OKV. And if I said WA0OKV earlier, that was a mistake. That was a year later when I got my general class license. But in March of 1966, my very first frequency was 7,185 kilocycles. Crystal controlled. I had a crystal for that transmitter at 7185 kilocycles. So I had a separate receiving antenna, just a long wire, random wires strung out from the Hallicrafter's receiver, and a 40-meter dipole fed with RG8U coaxial cable strung up in the backyard. I believe that my first QSO resulted from my calling a station. I did not call CQ very often. I just listened for signals near my frequency and called those stations. And the first QSO that I had, I don't remember the call sign and I don't remember the operator's name, but I remember his location, Zeeland, Michigan. That would be Zulu, Echo, Echo, Lima, Alpha, November, Delta. Zeeland, Michigan. And oh, was I ever excited. I ran screaming up to my parents and said, I made a contact, I made a QSO. And they were excited for me too. My dad, as I had mentioned in other videos, was a great ham radio father. And my mother understood to some extent also. I had a straight key, which I still have to this day, although it's broken. Needs a replacement spring, and I believe a couple of replacement screws, but it's still the very same key that I had when I was a novice more than 50 years ago. My very first QSO, and wow, that was really something back then, and I suppose it is today too. Ham radio was so much more restrictive than it is now, and yet I think it was just about as much fun as it is now, all things considered. The first QSO is an unforgettable experience, and to have it all by such antiquated means, by today's standards, seems, well, makes me feel like an old man, doesn't it? Oh well, just reminiscing on a day in January 31st, 2018. We're expecting a week of unsettled weather, and I may get snowed in and have to make a few more QSOs to pass the time. What a hobby. Amateur radio. Stan Gibilisco signing off. W1GV, good vibrations, saying 73. And so long, which, then as now, and forever after, in my native fist, always has, will, and shall be, translated into da-da-da-da-da-da.